Hello! So today what am I doing today? I don't know what I'm doing. Hello! So as some of you guys know, I costume design shows when I'm at school and I'm looking to pursue a career in costumes and costume design. So today I thought I'd come to you with some of my favorite go-to tools and items. These are like basic items that I always have with me when I'm costume designing a show, when I'm at the very beginning stages, when I'm sketching and when I'm researching. So let's get started. The first item is my laptop. Pretty basic. I've had this laptop since I was like 13 years old. What I use the laptop for is research. At the beginning of the process, there's a lot of research that goes in to doing a show because you're trying to get familiar with the time period and the location, and you're trying to understand these characters. So there's so much research photo-wise that you have to do. It's helpful to have everything on your computer so you can reference back to that. One thing that I use my computer for during the process is collaging. What I do is I get a Google Slides going, and I just get the characters' pictures on the Google Slides and collage it that way. It's basic, but it gets the job done. The other thing that I use my computer for, the other tool I use, is Pinterest. It's just another way to collect all of the images that I've found. Usually I start by photo dumping on Pinterest and getting as much information on there as possible, and then I'll move over to the Google Slides that I was talking about and the collage to make the collage, because that's like more of a refined version of what I'm trying to do with each character. Figure out what the fuck I'm doing, because sometimes I don't know. I always make sure to have my computer on me, because as a costume designer, you're gonna get contacted by the director asking you questions. You're gonna want to contact the director. Your stage manager is gonna contact you. You're gonna get a bunch of emails about meetings, and right now being all online, there's so many, you get so many emails, even more than the amount that we got before. That's not really part of the design process, even though communication with your stage manager and director is like one of the biggest parts of the design process. Next. Here's my bag. It's like a tote bag. The reason I'm showing this bag is because you want to have something to hold all your art tools in. I know this sounds so basic, but like, at first I didn't have a bag for all my art tools, and then you leave behind the one marker that's your favorite in your room. I have this separate actually from my school bag or my backpack, or the bag that I'm using like for my own personal things, if that makes sense. Like, this is just 100% art tools that I can use for costume designing. It helps just to have them all in one bag so that I never have to transfer any of the stuff out of my personal backpack or my school backpack. And I made this bag too, so it's special. Oh God. This, I think it's called a butcher block, a butcher board. I might not remember the name. I'll look it up, and if I'm wrong, I'll put it over there. You can see it has all my paint on it. This is one of the best purchases I've made for my art collection. It's basically just a paint palette, but the good part about this is that when you drop it on the floor, it doesn't break, which is important because I'm kind of clumsy sometimes. It's relatively easy to wash all the paint off of it in comparison to my head. It's very big, so I can spread out with all the different colors and not have them all mixed together, and that's really helpful. As a costume designer, you're trying to stay within a certain palette, so you want to keep the colors that you've already mixed on the butcher block, so in case you have to mix the color again, you have the reference and you have the reference color. There's a dog. This happens every time. There's always a dog, and that one I think is wearing a jacket. Anyways, the other reason that I like this is because most palettes are really small and they come like sectioned out, which I don't really know why they do that, but they come sectioned out, so it makes it harder to mix colors, and I feel like I'm constantly mixing like a million colors, and I mean, you can see, like, I have a bajillion colors on here, so it helps to have just like one big open space to be able to mix. Butcher block, very important, highly recommend, and it fits right in my bag, so The paint that I use is, I'm trying to get it, is gouache paint. I'm not even showing the front of it. Gouache, can you see that? Gouache paint. I suck at showing this. You get the idea. I can put a picture of it. Gouache paint. Can't spell it. The best part about gouache paint is that it's kind of like acrylic and watercolor paint had a baby, and this is what it is. This is their baby. It activates with water, so it's pretty easy for a common person to use, and it washes off of things, whereas acrylic does not wash off of things. And it can act like watercolor, like that sheer effect that watercolor has, which is important for costumes because there's sheer, there's overlays. You want to be able to represent that if you're using paint to do your sketches. It acts like acrylic in the way that it can get really thick and you can't see through it at all, which is also important because we're working with thick knits, we're working with wool. It's important to have something that can do both things really easily. It's kind of expensive, but I think it's worth it. I don't go through the tubes that often. It wipes off the butcher block really easily, which, let me show my bag. I'll read it to you and then I'll bleep it out. It says, "Please don't fuck with my shit." And then there's a fairy. If that doesn't represent my personality, I don't know what does. Yeah, I don't like when people touch my shit. Hopefully that made sense. I don't know if it did. I'll find out when I watch this back. I didn't say this, but now we're in the sketching phase of my process. The computer, that was my research phase. This is the sketching phase. I should have announced that at the beginning. Whoops! Paper. So, everyone has paper they like. Not everyone's gonna like the same paper. This paper is like my favorite paper ever. So this paper, I don't know if you can tell, but this paper is like a tannish brownish. Most people paint and sketch and draw on white paper because as children we're trained to always use white paper, which makes no sense to me because white paper is intimidating as fuck. What I decided was I'm not gonna use white paper anymore because then it makes me too nervous to sketch. I'm still a student, so I still get those nerves about getting things right and sketching. I'm a perfectionist and I want everything to look perfect and good, but not everything's gonna be perfect. So this paper allows for me not to feel like I have to be perfect right away or feel like the first line on the paper has to be the masterpiece line. Some people like white paper, not me. Not some. I like this tannish brownish paper for a few reasons. Firstly, this tannish brownish paper, it's really thick, so I can use watercolor, I can use paint on it, and it won't tear through the paper. The other thing, back to costumes, the reason why I like it is because I can use white on the paper. On white paper, you can't use white, and I love using white. I love having white accents, white highlights. White's my favorite color, don't at me. I love white. So on white paper, you can't use white until you've layered a bunch, but on here, you can use white. It is tone tan mixed media paper. Why did I do paper next? Okay, I don't know. Next, paintbrush. I thought I lost this paintbrush for a while, and then I just found it the other day. The most happy moment of my life because I spent so much money on this. So here's my paintbrush. I'm a makeup influencer. JK, I can't do that. So this paintbrush is, I believe, 100% sable tip, which means it'd be expensive. Sable is a natural fiber because it comes from the animal sable, but they make paintbrushes that are non-natural fibers, so they're made out of plastic. So I prefer the sable or partially sable. I use this paintbrush pretty much for everything. I can use it to paint a whole page, I can use it to paint small details. I love it, and I carry it in my kit all the time with me, and I really should get a nice cover, but I just use a paper towel that I tape together to make it be a cover. And you know what? It fits in perfect and has not failed me yet. So take good care of my paintbrush, clearly. I just seemed like whack AF that I don't have a real case. This isn't like an essential item, but having color pencils that are nice, these Prismacolor color pencils, I think is important. I don't use them for every project, but it's good for when you don't want to paint on details. Like if you have earrings that you want to draw on, or if you have like a little belt buckle you want to draw on, or even like if the costume has like dots or stripes or something and you don't want to paint that on because it can get really time consuming. These. Next, these felt tip markers. I pretty much use these on every project I work on. Yeah. And they come in different sizes, which is great, but I use them to not outline the costumes, but just give the costumes like a little bit of an edge on the outside, because sometimes they get a little bit faded. The last item on our list is you have to keep with you during the whole process. So that would be binders. If the show was gonna travel somewhere else and they wanted to use your costume design, you have this binder that has all of the information in it that they would need to do the show, basically exactly how you did it previously. You wanna have everything in here that could possibly be needed so that someone can do the show the exact same way that you did the show with the exact same costumes. You have the binder with you throughout the whole process, but when the binders become important for me is once the sketching is pretty much over. So once the art supply bag goes away, that's when the binders come out, and you want to have them with you all the time. They're just a good reference to have. Like, you have cast photos in there so you know what the cast looks like, and you have descriptions of all the costumes. It's the Bible of the costumes for your show, and it's really important to always have this with you, or in the costume shop, always have this handy to keep yourself organized, keep everyone on the same page. Those were the basic items that I think you need to have with you throughout the process, during 3 of the parts of the process: during the research phase, when you're at the very beginning trying to figure out the show; during the sketching phase, when you're trying to figure out exactly what those characters look like; and then during more of the costume making and costume picking stage. So during 3 parts, these are my essential items that I always have on me. If you see me when I'm costume designing, I always have these on me. If you guys have any questions about any other items that I use or any of the items that I talked about in this video, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to know more about the costume process, let me know. That's it for this video. Bye! But it can get hello? Is it called a butcher block? Can anyone hear me? I was squinting so much. Bye!